So let's get into some of these talking points that I have over here. I think we're warmed up now. Your circle of influence is going to dictate your successes. I think it's fundamental for dudes to understand that if you're going to surround yourself with negative, whiny losers, you surround yourself with five negative, whiny losers, you're going to be the sixth. There is no two ways about it. If you're allowing these people into your life, again, I've talked about this many, many times. Jack Donovan's written some great books about masculinity, tribalism. The Way of Men is a good starting point. You need to define your tribe. You draw a perimeter around it, and you have an us versus them strategy. You only let people in to your inner circle that have earned it, that are deserving of that placement. Far too many guys let these losers into their inner circle that influence them in a negative way, and they think sometimes that it's not going to have any influence. I'll give you a good example. There was this guy that I traveled in circles with. I'm going to say late 20s, early 30s. He had a bad drinking problem. He was almost always drunk, and he was a really bad drunk. He got involved in some other compounds as well, like weed and stuff like that, but that didn't really affect him the way that alcohol did. He was just really bad to be around, and it made him almost intolerable to be in public places with. He would have outbursts, freak out, sometimes shit would break. Sometimes he'd want to start a fight with you. Come on, fight me. Let's, come at me like you think you're better than me, sort of stuff like that, because you didn't want to engage at his level. And he was always broke. He was always borrowing money from people. He had a hard time paying his rent. He had a hard time paying his staff when he was trying to run his business, trying to make money. And anytime he came across money, it was gone. Boom. It just evaporated just like that. And I let this guy orbit my inner perimeter, get on the inside for far too long, mostly because I was really good friends with one guy that went to high school with him. And, he cleaned himself up, this other guy. He got himself out of his vices, out of his addictions, went through AA, was completely sober and clean for a number of years. He was a good guy. He was doing the work in life. He was leveling up. He lost a ton of body fat. He was like this short, kind of not even pudgy, but like fat dude with a bad haircut. He had this like big bad haircut sort of thing. And he cleaned that all up, man. He turned into a good-looking dude, got himself a decent job, made some money, drove a nice car, lost all the fat. By the end of it, when I came to know him as he cleaned himself up, we started calling him Pocket Hercules at the office because we used to work together. He was this little dude that was all just like buff as shit. But this other guy that used to travel in the circles, he just brought us down, man. Everything that we did, there was always something that was invited into our life just by having this guy around us. I remember one time we were sitting around. I think this is like late 20s or so. This is in the Halo days with the Xbox One, like the original one. And I remember, he came in the house and he looked all sketchy and dodgy, sort of thing like that. And we're like, "What's up, a dude?" Right? And he just kind of like ran off and kind of hid in a corner. And then few seconds later, there was a police officer at the door. There was two of them. And it's like every turn of the way, it was like there was no surprise that it was coming. And it wasn't that he was a bad guy. He was a good guy. He had a good heart. He was fun to be around when he was clean and focused and attentive to getting shit done. But he was just intolerable. And it just got to the point where I just cut him out. And had I let him, and maybe other people that he got involved with, because there was always somebody that he would collaborate with or associate with that he would bring over to our place, and he'd also get smashed or stoned out of his mind and trip over something and start breaking things in the house. And I remember one time he tried to get in the house and we weren't back from the club yet, and because he was pissed off and drunk out of his mind, he ripped the screen door off the front of the house. This is a house that we rented, by the way. He ripped the screen door off the front of the house and just kind of left it hanging there. If you allow these people into your life, and I've done this, if you allow these people into your life, they're going to hold you back. I've said this before. We have people that are sails that will fill our sails with wind and air and drive us forward. And we have people that are anchors, and anchors hold you back. And it's funny that I keep mentioning this because I keep watching so many sailing videos on YouTube now. But you got to cut those anchors loose, man. You know, they hold you back. You can only permit people into your life. And the sooner that you learn this lesson, honestly, I wish I learned this lesson in my 20s because it would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of stupid choices and decisions, spending time with or surrounding myself with people that, you know, didn't have that didn't want to level up, that didn't want me to level up, that didn't want to level up themselves. They just wanted to be mediocre. And that's fine. There's people like that. But once you identify them, you got to let them go. You have to cut them loose. There's no two ways about it. And that might mean that you're going to have to cut loose, you know, friends that you were, you know, hanging out with in high school for the longest time. You know, the good friend of mine that was clean, that had to separate himself from this guy, really struggled with it because he was good friends with him throughout the high school and they had a lot of history together and all that sort of stuff. You have to be able to do that, man. When people do that to you, and they really let you down in that sense, you got to let them go. And there should be nothing that is off the table. You know, if I'm being honest. When I was in my, I want to say, second or third year running my debt business in my early 30s, I ended up getting into a serious problem with ultimately what was my best friend of 25, 30 years or, something like that at that point. I think it was 25 years. And, he was living in my house. I actually rescued this guy from his shitty relationship with a single mommy. I remember his mom called me from the States to beg me to have him stay there, and I was okay with that because he was a good friend of mine. He was, he was there for me, but he just went down this shitty path of greed, man, and started collaborating with really really bad guys that got heavily involved in cocaine, really bad drugs and stuff like that, and it was all about money, and the friendship took a back seat. It used to be bros all the time, my brother. And I ended up having to sue the guy and cut him loose. And the stupid thing was he deserved everything that he got. And then after all of that, dude had the balls to come at me later on and maybe we can patch this up and water under the bridge. We'll just forget the salt. No, you got to ghost people like that. They are done. Once somebody shows you who they really are, it's incumbent upon you to let them go, to cut those assholes loose from your life. They're out there. And I know right now there's people watching this broadcast, right, that are thinking to themselves, yeah, I know one, maybe two, maybe five guys, in their inner circle that are problematic for them. You got to cut those guys loose, man. Got to cut them loose. Your circle of influence is always going to dictate the limits to your success. The more that I surrounded myself with focused, intentional, good people, which didn't really happen until my 30s, my life improved significantly. Leaps and bounds. I stopped allowing loser women into my life. I stopped allowing loser friends into my life. I stopped getting involved with people that I should never be involved with, that are tremendously problematic for guys being successful. Like I always say, guys, it's incumbent upon you as a man. You have the burden of performance.